My favorite part of apartment life is coming home from work, having your apartment smell like something you didn't cook. Like today, it smells like deep fried something and cigarettes. I didn't deep fry anything and I don't smoke, so that's not me. Hi everyone, I'm Holly and today I want to talk about my worst apartment experiences ever. Now my experiences are probably not as bad as other people's, but I still think it's funny and that we should talk about it. I was inspired by the recent addition of new neighbors downstairs. The old ones moved out, I got new ones, and it reminded me of, how great it is to live in an apartment and have neighbors who are basically roommates that you can't see. I moved a lot. I've had a lot of roommates and a lot of neighbors, and today I'm going to share some of my stories with you. Story number one happened in college. I think I've mentioned this one in another video. I decided it would be wise to move in with a bunch of randoms. Sometimes in college you have to make that decision for cheap rent and just to, make the best of the situation. So I moved in with people I didn't know. I had a basement room. It's actually quite lovely. It had a little fireplace. I think it dealt with mold. That's a kind of an aside. There was some mold in there. I was kind of always stuffy all the time. When I moved out I discovered that there was mold, but what are you gonna do? I couldn't do anything about it at the time because I didn't know it was there. But the roommates, they didn't really take care of things like I would have liked. In order for me to make dinner most nights, I would have to clean the kitchen myself to make space so I could cook. It was great. Anyways, so what ended up happening is we got fruit flies really, really bad, and it sucked. If you touched things, they would fly and be a cloud of fruit flies, and it was god-awful. And I'll never forget my roommate saying, "I've just learned to live with them," because I was the only one that was trying to do anything about it. So bad experience number two had to do with a turkey. At the same house, I went home for a weekend, and as I was leaving, my roommates indicated to me that they were going to do a turkey dinner. I can't really remember if there was a special occasion or if they're just doing it because they could. Anyway, I left. I'm like, okay, good luck with your cooking. So when I got back, they had put the garbage out, and the garbage didn't go out for a couple days, and the garbage was ripped open, which means something got into it. And next there's a big bag, and then I distinctly remember seeing a smaller bag, and the smaller bag was moving. So they had put the turkey carcass in a bag within a bag, and something had ripped it out, and it was full of maggots. And then, I kid you not, it sat there for like 3 days, because if you think I was touching that, you're out of your mind. Number three, when I moved into my first apartment on my own, it was a bit of a shithole. It wasn't very nice. There was one room that didn't have windows. In retrospect, I really shouldn't have rented that apartment. We had to paint the whole thing because the previous tenants were smokers and everything smelled bad. Thanks, parents, for sticking with me and, helping me with all that stuff. My cat's using the kitty litter box right now. So anyway, I did what I could to make it the best. We planted a little garden, we painted the walls, everything was good. Until it wasn't. The neighbors upstairs were wannabe rappers who tried to be really intimidating. So sometimes I'd come home from work and find them sitting on my, I had a single step into my apartment, and it was less than a foot, and they'd be sitting on it. And I'd be like, I live here. So yeah, and they would rap, as I said, they would rap, and it was god-awful. So a lot of nights I'd lay there in bed listening to the thump of whatever they were doing, their bass music or whatever, and they're rapping. That apartment was also cold, and yeah, it just never felt like home. There was also a nest outside of my bedroom window, and in the summertime the birds would go nuts. Experience number four, I moved into a house apartment. So it was a house that was split into two apartments. The lower half, they had the upper half. Now when you split a house into two apartments, sometimes they don't put the extra work into it to make it soundproof. You're just basically an upstairs and a downstairs. So that was great. Don't get me wrong, they were wonderful to talk to, but they would fight when they were drinking. They would fight, and you could hear every word, and it always sounded like they're coming through the ceiling. And that apartment was just a bad experience overall. The guy I lived with didn't care about smoking inside, even though I asked him not to. And it was just not a nice experience. So experience number five also comes from that apartment. It had bats. In the year and a little bit that I was there, I probably dealt with 6 to 7 bats. Luckily, I'm not freaked out by bats, so I could handle the situation, but it was incredibly inconvenient to wake up in the night and be like, oh, good, a bat. One of the worst experiences was I went to bed and I closed the bedroom door, curled up and got all cozy. And I was laying there just starting to doze off, and I felt something disturb the air around me. So I laid there for a minute and it happened again. I was like, oh, there's definitely a bat in this room with me. So I threw the blankets over my head because I'm not afraid of bats, but I know they can carry diseases and I'd rather not get bitten if it landed on my head. So I laid there for a second, deciding what the best course of action would be. So I rolled out of bed and crawled on the floor and opened the door. Now the reason I was closing the door is because my cat is a dick and would come in and make a fuss. I got really good at getting rid of bats. The landlords did eventually try their best to seal off any openings, but bats don't need a lot of space to get in. And a house down was a church, so I'm thinking that the church was full of bats and they just like to come hang out. They're super cute though. I like bats, just not in my house. Experience number 6 was one that I'm dealing with right now, and it's fleas. So, fun thing about apartments that are connected, if one apartment gets fleas, they all do. So the tenants that moved out a couple months ago, I didn't know this. I thought I picked them up from somewhere. I don't know. They had a flea infestation. I kept getting fleas. Hampton doesn't go outside. And then because our doors are on the same floor, I got them too. And I've been dealing with it for a few months now. So I'm hoping that maybe I'm winning now because I think I got rid of them and then they come back. And now I've got new neighbors downstairs, so I'm hoping maybe they take a little bit better care of their animals because I know they do have 2 cats. So yeah, things at this apartment haven't been super bad, just a couple minor inconveniences. My landlord takes care of most things. It's quite wonderful. However, I do hate that people in this building seem to think that smoking near the doors or inside is acceptable. I don't care that people smoke, but I absolutely hate it when I don't smoke and the building is a non-smoking building, yet they choose to smoke in their apartments. And I understand they pay rent, like I do, but first off, it's unfair to the landlord, because when you signed your lease, it said no smoking, yet here you are. And it's unfair to me as someone who does not smoke and is mildly allergic to the smell. It drives me nuts. I don't know if that's allergic or not, but I freaking hate it. So yeah, there's that. I've lived a lot of places. That's just some of the worst experiences. There's some other minor inconveniences, like I had roommates put their ass to the wall once. But that didn't really affect me. That was just more of a, oh my God, you put your ass to the wall. That's great. How did you do that? I have questions. In residence was always its own thing. Like that's a whole other ballgame when you live in a residence, like a school residence. That's always a good time. Lots of stories there. We could talk about that for days. But yeah, apartment life is not my favorite. Yet here I am. I do it because I like to live by myself. Anyway, in the comments below, I'd love to hear your horrible apartment experiences. I bet they're worse than mine because mine are pretty mild. They're mostly just inconvenient. But yeah, I'm genuinely curious. And if you like this video, you know, you can do the like thing or subscribe or whatever. You know, I'm Holly. Welcome. Welcome to my channel. I don't upload a lot, but when I do, it's AA+ in my opinion. Because it's my opinion. I can say what I want. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will talk to you again really soon.